Hello, welcome to Monday, and Facebook Live seems to have changed slightly. It's giving me more video to work with, so that's really good. And so 1 o'clock UK time every Monday, of course, we are live to talk about your startup business questions. I've got loads today, and I've been literally until the last moment answering questions from people on Facebook as well, so I'm trying my best to cover everyone. Those of you who are currently questioning me, or as in sending questions in, just bear with me or hop on the live stream, because of course I'm now here as opposed to anywhere else, but that's way better being able to see what's going on rather than a little sliver of video. So today's live session is going to be very, very exciting, because there's a launch of a new incentive. And I don't know if you saw a while back, it would have been about a month or so ago, I posted a video about one of my H2 or second half of the year goals, which is to position myself with 5 businesses, to consult with them, to be in a position that I can invest in them in 2017. So I work with dozens and dozens of startups, and there are new ones coming online all the time, but I'm looking for 5 in particular I could actually invest in. So it's really interesting, because since then, through various means, there's been probably 5 or 6 potentials, and definitely 2 of them I'm positioning to invest in next year. So I'm going to be launching a similar kind of incentive, and I'll explain that in detail a little later in this session. So let's get to the questions. First one, how do I make money fast online? Let's hope this is the right kind of question. How do I make money fast online? I'm obviously not interested in scams, but I need income quick as I have bills to pay. Okay, all right, so there are lots of ways of doing this, and I would be really interested in everyone adding comments or their own views if you're watching this now or subsequently, because I appreciate wherever you are, it might be early in the morning or something, but everyone has a different view on this. If you're online and you want to make money fast, I personally believe you should leverage whatever assets you currently have. If you want to make money fast, then the last thing you want to do is learn new skills, right? And so, you know, there's a group of people that would say, oh, you should do affiliate marketing, or you should do MLM, or whatever it is. And there's no question in my mind that if you are half decent at something, given there are billions of people online that could make use of your information, you'll find that you're actually in a position to use that coaching ability you might have. And so it's really as simple as this. Let's say, for example, I'm really good at drawing, and if I'm really good at drawing, what I do is I offer online for people to have drawing classes with me. Maybe once a week I do a Facebook Live, and I go through the basics of how I kind of draw a horse or whatever, I don't know, whatever it might be. And then you set something up so it's subscription based. So you could say, you know, pay me $10 every single month and you'll get 5 master classes with me, Skype or Zoom or whatever, one of these video conference meeting kind of things. And really simply, you start amassing people for very low ticket amounts, but you get a volume of people doing it. All the while, of course, put out lots of good content giving value and helping people, and then people respond to that well, because of course they like to see this kind of thing, especially when it's free of charge. So it's so easily done, and I've seen it so many times. I remember a guy as recently as a few months ago saying, I'm quite good at Forex, how do I leverage that? And they said, well, find people who would like to make some money and save to them, for $30 a month. Just teach them the basics and get them to be able to make that money back each month at least. And he was killing it. But, within a week, he already got 15 or 20 people who were saying, yeah, sure, no problem. And combined, of course, then that means quite a lot of money. So it's a quick way of doing it. You don't have to set anything up. You've got to use your own assets. Whatever you're good at, whatever you've been working at in your job or something like that, there must be something you're half decent at that people could make use of. Coaching and teaching is a very straightforward thing. Obviously, it's beneficial if you've done something for a very long time at a very high level and very successfully. But even so, you can still make use of, something you might be aware of doing. And the alternative, of course, is, if you want to just start making money, you can start selling things. There's a guy I've recently started working with, and it's as simple as put together a course, record some video explaining exactly how to do something really complex and niche, send it out to the right people in terms of a Facebook ad. It really is this simple, and then give them access to the course, you know. And it's a straightforward way where you can build the content within a day, maybe 6 videos or so, and then you focus on the marketing of that product. So hopefully that helps. I mean, there's a million and one other ideas, and if anyone has any, I would happily be interested in seeing them share that on this stream as well. Let's see the next one. So, how do I get more Instagram followers? Is very generic questions. So Instagram followers, there are 2 ways of doing it. The first is the straightforward way, which is recognizing that Instagram allows you with your account to follow up to 7,500 people at a time. So what you do is you find people who are active by doing searches, seeing what's trending, people who are in your space, in your world, of course, not just anyone, people who are close to you, who are regularly posting and have something of value to give, and you follow them. They are, because they are active Instagram users, likely to then follow you back in return. And if that's the case, you simply find that you know, by amassing 7,500 people that you're following, they tend to follow you back. What you can then do is unfollow a load of them and then follow a load more, and then of course you'll get even more followers, because when you unfollow, you tend to find that the other side doesn't unfollow as well. They tend to leave it or stick. So you will find that's a way of growing them up. But organically, it's as simple as anything. You know, it is really simple, but it's a lot of work. It's just giving value. You know, it's just writing something of interest to someone. I was speaking to someone recently who you know, has Facebook posts, and the content in terms of the images and the videos are spectacular, but the thing that's missing is the engagement. There's no explanation or rationalization in the caption itself, and it's just like one word. If it had a bit of explanation as to why it's being shown or why this is of use to someone, then he would start getting a bit more engagement, asking questions, perhaps put together some kind of quiz or something like that. All of these things can help, and you'll find that, you know, if you put the effort into making something compelling enough, the content will then start bringing people back. You know, and you only have to go as far as YouTube to look at, you know, you just type in how to get better engagement in Instagram, and there's a million and one videos, because everyone wants your views, of course, to try and help you with things like what your hashtags should be or policy for that, and so on and so forth. But really simply, follow people who are like-minded, and in addition to that, put out half decent content. Use my care approach as well, so it has to be consistently a good quality content going out. It has to be abundant, so every day you want to do at least 6 posts on Instagram. 1 or 2 isn't really worth it unless you've reached a particular level that you want to leave it at that. You've got to be relevant at all times to your space. Don't just suddenly put something random and off the wall. Keep it tight. And then of course you've got to engage. If someone writes you a message, they've decided consciously to engage with you, so you need to do the same back. Otherwise you're kind of, for want of a better phrase, you're mugging off someone who's decided to show you some interest or some love. So you need to engage with people as well. Okay, so that's what I would do, and you know, it takes time. I think it's more like 22 or 23,000 followers on Instagram. That's like a year that's taken me. And I know some people go faster, but I've had a lot of other things I'm doing too. But that's taken a year of really working hard, every day showing up, using that care approach, engaging with people as well. And that's how you get there, okay? So that's my view. Craig, thank you for joining. That's fantastic. By the way, if you are watching this right now, Facebook has changed its approach. Normally I have my phone, it's in portrait, okay? I want to ask what you can see. The top half is normally the video, the bottom half is normally comments. At the moment it's showing me the whole screen. Can you see just from here? Or can you see down to my stomach as well, and my information here? Can you see that too? Just give me something if you can see it. Okay, so let me know. Next question, do you think it's okay to sell my online proposition to friends? That's a good question. It depends what the online proposition is. Okay, you can see my notes. Good, Sam. Fine. So I'll make sure I'm wearing decent trousers in the future as well, rather than, you know, going semi-naked or shorts or something like that. Yeah. So is it okay to sell my online proposition to friends? It does depend, obviously, on what you're selling. the thing to look at is the branding approach, because if you're self-branding and self-promotion, and the perception of you is one that you're crafting. This doesn't mean lying about who you are, but if you're trying to put out there, you've got your entire world, but you let Facebook see that much of it, for instance, whatever it is that people get to see of you, if that's aligned with your process of getting people interested in buying your product, well, you need to be careful, because if friends and family are seeing that as well as what it is you're normally like in the offline world, they might not buy into you in the right kind of way. Also, arguably, sometimes things can get sticky and emotional and things like that. People may expect a bit more from you. You may feel uncomfortable speaking to people in certain ways. Hello, Nasima, thank you for joining me. My view is, as was that of the person who wrote this question, there are billions of people out there. Don't worry so much about engaging friends and family. I appreciate the network marketing pyramid scheme approach is engage friends and family first, because that's your easy targets to make money from, and then go from there. But my personal view is, with your online proposition, you probably don't really need to. My view is, my view, because I'm being asked the question, is I like to keep things separate. So I like to keep my online world separate from my friends and family. That's why I don't have a personal Facebook profile to speak of that really does anything. And I'd say that I never sell to friends and family, because they are there to be friends and family. And I have other targets and demographics that I'd like to engage with for my proposition. So it does depend on what you're offering. And obviously, if you've got a friend or family member in need that you can help them with that you can be helped with your proposition, there's no logic in not helping that person out. So hopefully that helps. Next question. I'm starting to get a lot of engagement online. Good for you. So should I answer the questions freely or push to upsell so that people pay for my answers? I'm guessing from this you're working as a consultant of some form. My view, as most of you probably know, my view is answer the bloody questions. Don't say, now, if you're asking me something, well, that costs you, so we're going to have to talk about how we're going to work together. Yeah, that's actually being really restrictive. And in fact, this is a traditionalist approach, which is, well, I'm not going to give you anything unless you pay me or give me something in kind. The thank you economy, as it's known, which was a book written by Gary Vaynerchuk, is really clear on the value of giving. Adam Grant, the professor at Wharton University, I'm a massive cheerleader of him. If you read his book, Give and Take, it also shows statistically, and in terms of what his research shows quite clearly, that the people who really win are the ones who give more. And I've made it a practice of mine to really do my best to help people as much as I can. And you tend to find if your agenda is only to help them and nothing else, then things come in your favour in the long run anyway. Why do you think I'm doing this live stream really? I mean, I wouldn't do it if it was no fun. I find it really stimulating, and I really like helping people. That's why I've made it my business to help people, at least in a business sense. I don't do a personal or life coaching kind of thing. In the long run, what's happened is that the abundance in terms of personal profile and so on that comes with helping people like this, and not holding back with any of the answers, not kind of giving you a kind of a restricted version of an answer. Oh, well, if you want more detail, you have to buy my course or something like that. I find that you get a lot more in return, and as a result, I've recently been involved in a book. I've got the Huffington Post who have approached me for an article, a myriad other things, for instance, that come out of the woodwork as a result of just helping people. And so don't hold back at all. And you could say, because I've had the question before on these streams where people say things like, should I really give out content of my best stuff? Because wouldn't that be giving away for free the things that people would be paying for? Well, Kinda, but the whole point of paying for instance, a course or for mentoring, if that's what you do, is that it's packaged in a different way. It's packaged in an accessible, convenient way. For instance, in a course, it's all in one place, as opposed to drips and drabs across weeks and months through Q&As, for instance. So yeah, my view is you should always answer these questions, because you're helping people out, and you tend to find that if you don't hold back in helping people out, they tend to then help you. If you have a product that can kind of move towards them buying, well, you do tend to find that they will research you and then get involved. So don't hold back at all. Certainly not with your answers as well. Don't give them like a watered down version and say they need to pay. An upsell's a bad idea at that point. Is my experience. Next question, is there a difference between advertising for B2C and B2B? So B2C is business to consumer, the idea being that if you are a business and you're selling to the average person in a home, so if I'm selling solar panels by dialing residential numbers and calling homeowners, that would be B2C, and B2B is business to business, so if I'm, selling to another business. Is there a difference between the advertising for them? In my experience, because I've worked both business to business and business to consumer, no, there isn't. And the reason why is simple. And then someone who said this, I think it was Grant Cardone actually, also said, there's no such thing as B2B and B2C when you reduce it down, because they're still people. Okay? You're selling to people. And so arguably someone in the B2B world, whilst they're a human being, when they're at their office desk, they might be in a certain zone or a certain state of mind. Conversely, when you're at home, you might be Mr. Business in your office, and then at home you're a bit more relaxed and things. Sure, you're in a different emotional state maybe, and perhaps your guard might be down or whatever, but the reality is you're selling to people, and people buy always for emotional reasons. If you're in business, or if you're just a home, for instance, whatever that might mean, you buy for fear, ego, greed, a need to please, whatever it might be. It's the same set of reasons. How you dress it up obviously is different, because perhaps the language you use, if you're approaching corporates, sure, you might need to be a bit more polished. And everyone who's seen both my courses, I'm sold well through, I think it was over 80 people who bought the ESS course last week, so thank you for that on my birthday week incentive. I had people who've done the 8-Step Startup course. It targets people who are just sitting in a study or in an office, not wearing a suit and tie, and that's why I didn't do it either. And the sales the sales course is being bought a lot by businesses, which is why I was a little more dressed up. You could argue the packaging of it was slightly different, but I'm still selling to people. So in terms of advertising for B2C and B2B, there's no difference in terms of the motivations to buy. Some of the language might be slightly changed. You might need to be slightly less colloquial if you're selling to a business. Maybe the imagery might be different, but I'm using maybe because there's a transition, I feel, that's happening nowadays, and being straight-laced, corporate, wear a tie, use particular type of language is being shunned and almost poo-pooed a bit by people in business, especially new businesses, and in favour of a bit more of a more organic, speak to people like they're people approach to things. So I would say if I was targeting businesses, when I have targeted businesses in the past, my greatest success has been when I approach them like a normal person, as opposed to very formal boardroom PowerPoint presentation approach to things. Because if you think about it nowadays, especially online, the way that looks is so stale and inaccessible. And I saw it recently as a guy who was asking me about his Facebook page for his business, and he said, why is it that no one's really seemed to be that interested? And I said, at the very least, there's no face to your business. What you've got is this Facebook fan page, and it had the logo and it was talking just about the business products and things like that. There was nothing there that kind of gave it a personality. Now, Apple, as an example, if I say the name Apple to you, you probably imagine a particular personality of the company, and they've worked hard to kind of create that. So that's what you need to get across, is bear in mind that if your business has a persona, ideally if you're a small company or a startup, that persona really needs to be reflected in you as a person. Then you'll find that people resonate with it a lot more because it's a human thing. So that's my view on it. I think you need to be careful with feeling that things should be very different. You're still selling to people, even if they have a business hat on. It doesn't mean that motivations are always particularly different. Okay, so your products may be different, your propositions, but the actual reasons for buying will often be the same, at least if you boil it down. Let's do one more question, then I'll explain the incentives. So is it possible to overload yourself with too much information in a short time? Yeah, it is, you know. I think there's a thing, well, it's not a thing so much as just what I've called it. I think you can overlearn. I really do. And I've seen people who I've seen someone I know of who spent several years literally just learning all the time. And my view, maybe it's just because of my makeup, is more an action person. I like to execute, and so learning is part of a process of building, as opposed to learning as a kind of a pre-build R&D phase, if you like, before I then go ahead and do something. And sure, there is always learning ahead of executing something, but I do believe that you can overdo it to the point where you're learning, and then there's no time for actually doing anything. And so, for instance, those who do my course, the 8-Step Startup course, it's 73 lessons, and you get people getting keen or carried away. Oh, I've watched one. 40 minutes is one session, perhaps. I watched one, that's really interesting. I'm going to watch another one now. Now I'm on the roll. Now I'll watch 3 or 4. And then you end up, you spent half your day doing it. And it's flattering, but the point is that actually you should do it a little bit more balanced than that, because if you're not applying what you're learning, then you could argue that your learning is getting a little bit pointless after a while. Having said that, I'd be one of the first to put my hand up and say there's stimulation in the kind of act of actually learning something new anyway, so I am aware of that. But learning for learning's sake, when it comes to building a startup business, can be overdone. And a good example of that is people who don't typically have their head in a book, who start a business and realize they need to perhaps learn and work through, textbooks, how-tos, get involved in reading a lot more. And then you find them starting to read anything that gets recommended that isn't actually applicable to what they're doing. At the very start, when you begin a business, you need to be focused on the act of doing and building. When you need to learn something, you go learn it and you continue building. What you don't do is go and learn things that are helpful and applicable to your business, and also go learn other things as well. You don't have the time or resource, and if you feel you do, well, you're misweighting it. You need to put more in terms of action. But I've always felt that you should earn the time to go learn a language or something like that. It's very fashionable to say, yeah, go learn a language, wouldn't that be wonderful, and broaden your mind. Yes, it does, but when you're building a business, you have to be all in. And every time I work with someone who works on their business piecemeal, they don't get anywhere. Simple as that. So you need to have an intense focus when you're in this kind of startup phase, maybe 3 to 4 months of focusing all in on the business. Get the thing moving. Then you're earning the time to go learn these other peripheral subjects and extra things as well. Good for you. That's something that you could do. It's a wonderful reward, if you like, but it's certainly a dangerous thing to be, cracking the spine open on the intelligent investor when you're building a lifestyle and wellness company, because that's just what people read if they're an entrepreneur. You've got to look beyond that and say to yourself, why am I actually doing this? Is it because it helps with posturing? That's a bad reason to read the book. Will it help because all money that comes in is going to feed into my investing business that I'm making on the side? Well, then it's worth reading it. So think about what's applicable and not what's not. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not trying to rant, it's just that people do complain about not having enough time, and yet they waste a lot of time doing silly things like reading more than they need to, or reading things that aren't actually applicable because they haven't stopped for a moment to think, why am I actually reading this book? They just read it because it looks good, as I say, to flash. And the classic one is The Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham, because, well, that was Warren Buffett's mentor. Warren Buffett is a billionaire and one of the richest people in the world. Ergo, as an entrepreneur, I should be reading it. No, it doesn't work like that. Read the thing you need to help build your business and get on with building it. And once you build, if you move into investing, go read The Intelligent Investor, okay? But think about it first, okay? I really urge you to do that. I've looked at that book. I haven't read it back to back because it's insane. It's a huge book. But I really feel that if you're going to go read things that directly don't apply, I'm not talking about always, by the way, just so just this is clear, just to caveat this is for the phase when you're starting out and building a business. In those first few months, you've got to get all in on the business, which means, you know what, if I'm going to look up from the page, metaphorically, so as in, if I'm going to stop action and execution of my business because I'm going to go and learn something, well, it sure as hell better be directly applicable to what I'm working on. Okay, as I said, otherwise, never complain about not having enough time and not making enough money. Because if you want to go spend it on things that are, I'm not going to say they're stupid, but things that are not relevant at this crucial time where intensity is needed, well, then, you know, it's a decision you've got to make. Okay, so think on that. I'm a big fan of learning peripheral subjects, and I do a lot of it myself. And what's nice is I've created a business that requires it. That's why I did the business, because I wanted to learn different things, right? And so when I get people ask me questions about certain things, I think, well, this is an opportunity to go and learn about subject X that I haven't learned much about in the past, for instance. So that's a great reason for me to do it, a business reason, okay? But whimsy is not a business reason. I don't know, I've just seen someone read this cool book. It just seems to be doing really well on Amazon, and everyone is posturing, you know, holding up pictures. I'm reading this book, you know, often they don't, but they're just holding it up. This is this entrepreneur nonsense people are doing at the moment. And you tend to find that if you go ahead and buy that book and read it, sure, you've read a book then, but it sits miles outside of your ecosystem. It's just a bit of a waste of time, really. So that's not to say don't learn. What it is to say is learn when it's important and learn what you should, you know, what is important for that moment there. Rant over. Hopefully that's clear. Sam Payne's online. Check out his Entrepreneur's Book Corner. Sam, I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's about that intense period at the very start when you're learning as you're building the start of your business, right? Later on, great, I've automated stuff. All I've got to do today is focus on working on this new project and meeting with my sales directors. Fine, go learn Japanese. But right now, you've got to think about what's important if I'm building something new. All right, so let's talk about the incentive with that in mind. So, like I mentioned before, I am in 2017, I'm going to be investing in 5 companies. It's something I like doing regularly, and it's one of my goals for the second half of this year. There are 2, it looks like, that I'm pretty much aligned with that I will be investing in next year. And to add to the pot of companies I was looking at, in the last month or so, I had an incentive, and I brought on board 3 more companies to work with completely free, and I consulted with them, and we looked at what their businesses were. I'm going to roll this out again now, and so I want to take the winners probably on Thursday. I will probably give the announce the winners. Maybe Friday, but basically I want to hear from you if you have a startup business, if you're interested in me consulting with you and looking after, you know, for want of a better word, call it mentoring for 30 days, or giving guidance if you like. So every single day for 30 days we'll stay tight, and for completely free with zero obligation, I will invest time in helping you with your business. Okay, I've worked with startup businesses for years and years, and I've built businesses that are multi-million over the past 15 years, and I have businesses of my own. So I have something of a set of credentials. So if you're interested in having me consult with you and work alongside you for 30 days on your startup project or business, and you don't have to have already started it. It could be an idea, very nebulous, that you're just kind of thinking about for the future. But if you want me to work with you, then all I want from you is a private message to send me. Keep it brief if you wouldn't mind, on why your idea is so right, why it's a good idea, and therefore why I should be involved. Like I said, it's not an obligation, but ultimately what I'm interested in is doing this because the two people I would pick are potentially companies that I will invest in 2017. Okay, so I'm interested in doing that. I like doing things with my money, so rather than having it sit there or, you know, buy something that's going to depreciate, I like to put it into companies or invest in something. So that's what I will be doing. Like I said, I've got two so far that I've got in mind, but I want to build some more contingency, and hopefully by the end of the year I'll be positioned to invest in 5 of them. So if you're interested, send me a message and we will take it from there, and I'll announce them probably Thursday, maybe Friday, depending on how we do. If I'm not really impressed, I'll extend for another day, so you'll know if it's by Friday that the results are, the messages have been poor, and I'll select 2 people. So hopefully that's clear. My connection apparently is a little weaker, so hope you can hear me. Can you thumbs up everyone if you can hear me okay still? Okay, good. So let's move on to the next question. So next question is it possible to overload yourself? No, I've done that one, haven't I? When you have an idea for a startup business that you know you will be opening within the year, do you tell people about your idea and start social media marketing as early as is possible, or wait until you get closer to the opening date? I'll say that again because I'm a bit concerned that I was losing connection there. When you have an idea for a startup business that you know will be opening within the year, do you tell people about your idea and start social media marketing as early as is possible, or wait until you get closer to the opening date? Well, it depends is the standard answer to everything. It depends on what you're doing, because for some things, if you're starting months and months and months out, well, you know, you kind of lose impact after a while. It depends what it is. When one of my businesses is working with sports and wellness, and I launched a yoga school. I don't actually teach yoga. I got an instructor to do that for me, but all the rest of it I built. And the idea there was, with the marketing, I started about 2 months out because I wanted to connect with people who would be able to put it in their diary. And what I wanted to do was what's called a taper. So I started with a bit of information, a bit of interesting content going out, little bits of teasers here and there. Then it got more and more interesting, lots more happening. And like 6 weeks out, I started to be getting, you know, foot to the floor in terms of the marketing. And the idea was that starting far enough out means that people kind of start to know about it and then share it and talk to each other about it. If you want to launch something, you want to get some kind of swell of interest, and I do find that a couple of months out is a good way to do it. If it's something you want to kind of really build hype around, then you need to think about what that strategy looks like. So for instance, with the yoga school, I deliberately withheld, hello Carolina, I deliberately withheld information, okay, in the initial posts that were going out, because I was focused on teasing a bit. So for instance, the whole particular radius I used Facebook ads for this. There was a particular radius I used geographically, and I targeted people in that radius and said, coming on this date, there is this course, and literally nothing else. And so it was amazing. I mean, the results. So many people going, when is it? What time is it? What's the price? What is this about? And it said yoga. I think it was, I said yoga, and I'm not going to say what the brand name is. But I said yoga and a bit of detail kind of in terms of what type of yoga. And that was it. And then people go, I really want to know about it. So it was really good because I started hearing that people were kind of talking about this new yoga class, and that was really an exciting start. Then a little bit more, then you give a bit more each time. So the first few posts I deliberately withheld information. Then I talked about having an information pack, and it was really exciting because then people were emailing. I threw out after several posts, here's the email address, or I think the one before, in fact I'm pretty sure I did the one before, which was the email address will be coming soon, keep your eyes peeled kind of thing. And so I worked the crowd, if you like. So I stuck with the same people, and then you end up with, of course, people saying, "Can I have my information pack, please?" And I think it was something crazy. It was a very localized school. The radius was literally like 3 miles, but I had like 60 people sign up for this thing, and it was really effective. All because of the tease. And it started, as I say, about 2 months out, a little bit here and there, and the video, I just threw together a video, and it was great because I remember hearing someone talking to my wife about this thing. Have you seen there's this new yoga school opening in, I think it was like September or something like that, and I was like, yeah, it's my husband's. And it was great because it was starting to get people talking, so that was really exciting. So I would say it depends what it is, but start a couple of months out if you want people to be able to set aside time to buy your course, if it's that kind of thing. If it is a new product, there's nothing to stop it happening, sooner rather than later. Don't leave it too late though. I mean, don't leave it like the last couple of weeks, because you just won't get people going fast enough unless you have some epic following. If you have a massive amount of people following you, Gary Vaynerchuk's a really good example of this. He can launch initiatives a week or two before, in terms of the content and social media. He can let people know a couple of weeks before he actually launches it, and that's sufficient to get loads of people going and throwing an interest at it. But you need to kind of build this kind of hype and keep it on the agenda for some time, really, and that tends to be the best way to do it. So it depends. I would say if I'm launching something, I could be launching a new car or a new type of sewing machine. It could be anything. But if I'm launching something in, say, 6 months' time, and I know that I can set myself a deadline of it going live then I would start, perhaps, there's no harm in starting to share information about it. But certainly within 2 months of your launch, you've got to be starting to let people know about it. Any sooner and you're starting to probably not get the swell that you're interested in. Yeah, Carolina, this is your question, so thank you for sharing. Yes, 2-3 months out. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say 3 months out is enough, but definitely by 2, start the process then. So hopefully that helps. Let's do 2 more questions, then we'll finish up. Do you ever account for things to go wrong as part of your time management for day-to-day tasks? Yes, I do. Of course. I think it's almost impossible, and let me rephrase, it's very naive to expect all days to always go really well, okay? It's not likely that all things are going to always go really well. It's the case that things will go wrong, okay? So with that in mind, stuff happens, and so it sounds like a lot of wastage, but when I write out my daily plan, I have an additional third. Okay, so I have the amount of time that it will take, maybe it's 10 minutes, then an additional third, say like 3 minutes or so. Nasima, can you just expand on your question? I'll get to it in a second. But I have, say 10 minutes, I have another 3. I'll add on for anything going wrong. I call it for slippage. Okay, so if there's any kind of thing that could have gone wrong, I will actually have that extra time. I'm in my home office today, and I have children and things, and sometimes you get a curveball, and you know, maybe one of them's ill, or maybe it's some kind of issue or whatever it might be, and sometimes you just got to be able to do something else as well. I know someone, off the top of my head, I know several like this, but I know someone in particular who doesn't do this. He basically has all of his day set that there is no chance that anything could go wrong, because otherwise he'll run out of time. And the only way he has extra time is if he comes in early on a task. He's like, by this time I have to have this done. And he's stressed like you wouldn't believe. And, you know, he'll drop that task as it finishes and run to the next thing. And it's just not the way I want to live my life. I don't want to be leisurely. I want to keep myself moving, but I do recognise that it gets stressful if you're pushing yourself to nail all of these tasks, but actually there's not going to be enough time. If you drop your spoon in your cereal, that's it, the day's over, you're behind all the way. I need it to be that there's a bit more time for it. So I do find that works. And yeah, you tend to find that you can amass or accumulate a little bit of time across the day. You end up, you know, I'm quarter of an hour, 20 minutes ahead of my schedule. Great. What other things could I build in today? There's always other things to do. So for instance, this Q&A will be, I see what time it is now. I start at 1, I finish typically between 1:45 and 2 o'clock, but I also have, say, 20 minutes after that of dead time, because there's another third, because I kind of book myself an hour for it, but I have like a third extra time in case it runs over, in case anything particular happens before my next task starts, because also something critical might come up. And it also allows me to gather my thoughts and maybe post this in a group or something like that as well. So I always add a third. It feels like a lot, but it's actually not. It's just right. So you should try it if you do a daily plan and see how it works for you. Nasima, do you have a virtual assistant that helps you in your day-to-day business? Yes, for some of my tasks. I'm actually looking for another one. But probably a kind of a physical assistant who can be local. I am not as sold as many other people are on virtual assistants, because I'm yet to find someone really who can just nail stuff, and it's difficult. I'm one of these people who likes control of my business and relinquishing that and giving tasks to other people. It has to be really straightforward, paint by numbers kind of tasks I give away. I'm interested in other people's views and if they know of good virtual assistants, because I'm yet to find one who is so switched on they don't need telling of several times, and it maybe it's me, right? But I really think that I put things succinctly and directly for them. So yeah, I have one. They help with particular tasks. I need another, and so I will probably be looking at one that is physical, because look, no, I'm sure you'd all agree, you can't beat being able to, because when I get another office, you can't beat to be able to turn to someone and say, you know, let's discuss how this is going, because they're right there, rather than dialing up someone who's other end of the country or something like that. It's a lot easier. But I'm interested in your thoughts. If anyone else has a virtual assistant as well, maybe they can contact you, Nasima, if that's something you're interested in too. Final question: how do you get people to follow you rather than just follow for follow, and with no engagement? Okay, it's a really good point. It's kind of similar to what I said earlier actually about Instagram. There's a major difference between followers and people with no engagement. It's the same if you look at things like Facebook groups. You get, I think the biggest one I've seen, I made a note of it in my head, was like, it was like 45,000 people. Seriously, huge. And no one, like, there was literally not one like on each post. And you think, there's no engagement, it's rubbish, this is terrible. Why would you want, I mean, people go, oh, it's a huge group. Yeah, but are there any people actually connecting on it? Are people actually engaged at all? And if there isn't any, then that's just terrible. And I think that it's prevalent in places like Instagram, because followers obviously is a really important metric for many. You know, because there's so much duplication. If I was to do a luxury lifestyle type of Instagram page, they're 2 a penny on Instagram. So people tend to say, well, yeah, but mine's got 3.2 million followers or something like that. If you don't get great engagement, then your followers are weak. Okay, and you want to not go out of it. This is a lesson I learned from someone last year. I engaged with someone to see how they did their social media. And what I learned, and this was a very valuable lesson actually, what I learned though was what not to do. This person was buying all their likes and buying all their followers. So they had something like, it was like 50 or 60,000 Twitter followers. Instagram was something like 70,000. Facebook, it was like followed by 30,000 people, and buying all of the likes. And then you look at these posts where there should be a lot more, okay, and because it's paid for, you get several hundred likes within an hour and one comment. And then you look through and you think, you know, if you have a lot of mutual friends, you look through and you're like, how have I got no mutual friends with any of your followers? And it's really weird because, and you just think, well, it's because they're all paid for. So never go out of your way to just get followers for the sake of the number. It's better to be real. Go earn them. It's way more fulfilling, and those people will, you know, become advocates for you and they'll stay close with you as well. But how to get them, it's always the same. You've got to put the work in to creating content that's valuable. Why would you follow you? Why would you engage and send a message to you? Is it because you have something interesting to say? Do you have a question you want to ask that people are actually going to want to answer? You know, you've got to avoid this stuff like this, you know, like clickbait. You know, if you don't share this, then an angel won't give you a wish or some kind of bollocks like that. You've got to really think hard about what's going to give value, what's going to actually help people, and what is a little bit more unique. So be you, and be open to embracing the fear of posting stuff that might crash and burn. Because what you might find is that somewhere out there people start liking you. And if you do it enough, look, there's two ways of doing it, right? One way is you post stuff and you're lucky, something gets picked up by someone who's a massive influencer and you go viral and the rest is a piece of cake. But what's more likely is that you need to work through the process of constantly engaging people with great value-led content. And when they engage, even if you get a like and no comment, to start with, what I used to do, I would message everyone that even liked one of my posts and I would thank them for the like. And I'd be like, wow, hey, no problem at all. Sometimes you'd never hear from them again. Other times, they then give you a friend request, then you see they're following you, and then maybe they write another comment on another post, or write a comment on another post, and then you thank them for that as well. Thanking people for everything, it gets hard after a while, but you should still do it. And as much as it's possible, I go through every single post and thank them all. And it's an important process, because what happens is you engage with them, then you earn them engaging with you and starting to follow you back. Sorry, there's no shortcuts. There are shortcuts to the numbers, to getting high numbers of followers. That's easy. You can go to what's it called, addmenow.com. You have to just like look at adverts and like other people's pages, and you're like, oh, some bakery in Ontario, I'll like that, and then they like you back or whatever, and you just think, what world is this that I'm in? And is completely vacuous. Whereas if you think for a moment, what would I like to actually read about? What is it that I'm doing? Am I focused on Forex trading? Well, then why don't I share some information about Forex trading that could help people? Why don't I post something rather than just repost stuff, rather than just fancy pictures? Why don't I actually give something, my own thoughts? Because you are all being able to use your own brain, your own thoughts that can help other people. Then maybe you have to hashtag it or something. Speak to people who might want to share it. Okay, connect with people in groups, speak to them, and so on and so forth. It's all that. It's putting the time in to connect with people, and that way you get better quality followers. And it's always better to have a smaller group of people who are interested than a larger group of people who don't care in the slightest about what you're doing. And if you want to convert that to an income, it's easily done, because the former set of people will love you and they'll all buy your stuff. And the second set of people, while there may be more of them numerically, they don't even know what you're doing because they don't really follow you. You know, you're just in the background. So I think everyone who thinks about it actually knows the answer there. But that's what it comes down to. To get people to follow you rather than just follow for follow, you need to lead by being an influencer yourself, by being someone who has something to add. So put your neck on the line. Seriously, as he said, you know, embrace the fear. Go read Seth Godin's Icarus Deception and you'll understand what I mean. Get out there and say, do you know what? It's going to be scary. Sometimes it will crash and burn. I do it all the time with my posts. I try different things. Sometimes like, wow, that post got 80 likes and I've got 6 comments as a result from it, from people who are interested in buying a course. That post got 3 likes and no comments whatsoever, you know, on the same day. So it may well be that, you know, sometimes you're not given the right kind of level of value. Give, and people come back to you. It works a wonderful treat. And it's sadly really rather unique, taking that approach these days, when people want something that's just superfluous and easily done in terms of content posting to get them great results. Okay, anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. If you are interested in me consulting with you for 30 days because you have a business, startup business idea, or you're starting your own business, or in fact you have an established business, then send me a message telling me why your business idea is so great, and I'll be in touch with the winners of the incentive on Thursday this week. Okay, have a great Monday, all of you, and thanks very much for tuning in. Speak to you soon.